I'm back again for another round of Facebook Live. I'm Allie Curtis. I am the Miss Rhode Island Earth, and I'm competing for Miss Earth USA virtually here in 2 weeks now, which is very exciting. So I'm here for any questions. For any of you who are new and we haven't connected before, I represented Rhode Island at Miss Earth USA last year in Las Vegas, where I placed in the top 12. I've been competing in pageants for 14 years now, and this has just been one of the most remarkable experiences to be a part of the Miss Earth organization. So we're going to have a little bit of a different year here, particularly because we are on a virtual pageant as opposed to being there in person. So as it goes with the times, we definitely have some adapting to do, and it's going to be a really neat experience, and I'm looking forward to seeing how we're able to really make this happen and continue on both in sisterhood and service in this very interesting time in our world today. So anyone has any questions, and our people are just starting to come on, trickle in and join. We'll be here for the next hour. It is 9 a.m. here in the United States, so I am just waking up, enjoying my coffee hour, getting ready for the day. We have like the opposite of last night, where it was very late for me here, but everyone in the Philippines was just starting their day. Hello! Oh, we have people rolling in. I'll share with you my favorite coffee mug. It is Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and she says, "When there are nine," because she thinks that when there's 9 women on the United States Supreme Court, then that is the perfect balance. And I always love that energy because no one ever complained when there were 9 men on the Supreme Court. So when there are 9, definitely the kind of female empowerment and energy I love to take in my life. By the way, for those of you joining, you didn't catch my Facebook Live last night. I am still looking to figure out what dress I'm going to wear for this pageant, and we're making a decision today. So if anyone has ideas, colors, anything you're thinking, you can definitely send those my way. One of the unique things that happened this year with this being virtual is that I was actually able to compete. So several months ago, I found out that when the pageant changed their dates, because we were supposed to be mid-July in Las Vegas, had all the plans ready for that since last October, knew I had to go back to Miss Earth USA because I just loved the experience last year, and it was a really special time, and I'm aging out this year, so I figured give it one more go, and I was crushed, not only to find that we, of course, were changing the dates, but I wouldn't be able to participate because I had career training for the United States military that, of course, coincided with the dates of the pageant. So I had to withdraw from the pageant, and it was just this past week that I was able to rejoin because we were doing this virtually. So one of the really special parts, this worked out well with having this virtual pageant, but now we're adapting and scrambling to get everything together, and that's how you do life sometimes. You're flying by the seat of your pants, you're just making things happen, and it's such a special thing to be a part of, especially after thinking this dream had sailed. Oh, we have the president of the Miss Atlantic Canada pageant. That's awesome. Welcome. I love seeing that we have people from all over the world with us today. How exciting. I'm still in Rhode Island. I'm my humble abode in Situate, Rhode Island. Nespresso machines, best invention. That is what is getting me through this. So I don't think I've fully, have delved into what it means to be in a virtual pageant as opposed to in person. It's great to think about. I don't have to pack. I can have everything out of the comfort of my own home. I can essentially compete in my own home. I can watch the final pageant from my couch in sweats. And that's a really, really fun thing. So I want to hear about how people are planning to watch the virtual pageant. If you're planning on tuning into Pageant Planet, if you are planning on having a pageant viewing party, or what it is you're planning to do. If you have any other special occasions lined up, I think I'm going to order a cake, have some friends over, and we'll see how it goes. But it's so interesting to watch this in real time. But to not actually be a part of the competition itself. It's just, it's wild to me. Anyone has any questions, feel free to jump in. I'm just about to become a coffee commercial for everyone. Oh, I hope everyone's enjoying wherever they are, whatever time it is. So today's a big day for preparations for the pageant. Of course, I have to determine all of my wardrobe, but also I'm doing my Think Global Action Local Community Service Project. So we have a bunch of tools from one of our sponsors, Garbo Grabber, which is fantastic. They have these really handy trash baggers that I love. I'll take those on any beach cleanup, any community cleanup ever. They're fantastic. And it helps you essentially grab the trash and keep it in a neat little bag that you take with you, and they have pickup tools as well. So Garbo Grabber sent these to me to use for a cleanup, and here we are getting ready to do this cleanup. So I have some friends joining, another title holder from last year, really great support. Nice socially distanced activity because we can go through a park and definitely cover different areas and try not to overlap too much. One of the few great social distance activities which works for pageant title holders, doing cleanups. It's certainly a good way to go about doing some appearances and community time, making a difference. Does anyone have any questions? We're open book today. We can talk about anything. I hear my roommate upstairs. She is gonna probably be coming down here with the dog soon, so we might get to see the cute little pup that she rescued this year. He's fun. His name's Bear. So we all love a good little puppy, sweet dog. And we'll definitely bring Bear on if Bear comes by. I'll make the plug right now too. If anyone feels so compelled, tomorrow night at 9 p.m. United States time, so 9 a.m. Philippines, or wherever you are in the world, you can join on the page, my personal page, personal title holder page rather, but the Miss Rhode Island Earth page. I will be doing a Facebook Live there as well at 9:30. Which is always fun because we'll get a lot of different people involved there. It was very lively and very active last time around, so we'll do that again here soon. Well, if we don't have any questions right now, I'll talk a little bit more about the advocacy work that I've done. I started a program in 2013 called Leading Ladies, Equipping Young Women with the Skills to Lead. And the whole part of this program, the whole heart of it is that we need to have more women in leadership positions. Women have been underrepresented from Fortune 500 companies as CEOs to boardrooms to battlefields to our legislature. Every single component of the United States government in particular has lacked in having female leadership. And these are fields where huge decisions are being made, and we need women to bring diversity of thought and opinion and experience and representation to the forefront. So I started this program to help train women to seek out these positions, to take sexism head on, and really to become advocates in their own community. I always say I'm advocating for advocacy. We need more women involved in so many facets of life, because when women are involved, we change the equation. And being in the United States military myself, I've found myself really living Leading Ladies to the fullest. Before then, I was working in politics and actually been a campaign manager. So for me, this was very, very near and dear to my heart, working in a field where there are not other women as readily available as men, or as readily available as sexism, and helping other women notice these biases and call them out in a way that is conducive for other women to follow suit, and to make sure that we're in very wonderful workforces that we're not now facing sexism in any longer. If you have any more questions about Leading Ladies, there's a lot of information on my website, alecurtis.com, but it is definitely something that I've carried with me and still pertains to my time as a title holder in Miss Earth USA. We need women who are involved in their communities, who are participating in climate advocacy, who are advocating for the environment, who are a voice for the voiceless, and being in any kind of leadership capacity in our communities, whether you're a title holder or you're running for Congress or you're an elected official. There is a dire need for us to be focusing on the climate at every single turn. And I'm hoping that as I continue my program, we have more women who see themselves in these roles, and together we can make positive change. Now, beyond that, I do have a more environmentally focused and driven advocacy platform. I've talked about this before, and I know some people get really up in arms and very concerned about their own lives, and they think coming after their lifestyle. But I say this: I have not eaten meat in 4 years, and I'm not telling everyone they need to go vegetarian or vegan. But if you're a flexitarian, if you do Meatless Monday, if you work to remove some of these really harmful to the environment products from your daily intake, palm oil, for example, it's still a plant-based product technically, but it's so degrading to the environment that most vegans, most plant-based folks, or just environmentally cautious folks to begin with, won't eat it. Won't eat foods that contain palm oil. For me, I've not been doing anything that's animal related for the past 4 years. Of course, you have to kind of work your way up to that. You realize how many things actually have products that come from animal agriculture, or that come from these industries that are terribly harmful to the environment. A huge influence in my path to veganism was watching the movie Cowspiracy. It's a documentary. It's available on Netflix. I would highly, highly recommend it if anyone's looking for another perspective on how truly devastating it is to be eating foods from factory farms. Of course, there are people who will go vegan based on finding out about the health benefits. A great movie for that is Game Changers, and some people do it for the animals. And here's a sweet animal right here. This is Bear. This is what I was telling you about. Hey, Bear. I promise Bear isn't camera shy. He's being a little camera shy right now, but he's definitely a little cam. His mom is gonna come get him for a walk here soon. Bear, say hi. Say hello. See, he's precious. He's such a sweetheart. Such a sweetheart. Here you go, Bear. Bear is making his debut on the internet today with new fan club. Oh, he's dressing up right now. Oh, I think Bear's gonna come do a little modeling for us before he goes on a walk. Bear, come on over here. Come over here, sweetie. Come here. Here. Oh. Bear is in a tuxedo now. You can tell my roommate also did pageants because we have a tuxedo for our dog. He's so handsome. Say hi. Hi. Okay, he's been a good boy. All right, I'm gonna let you get back to your mommy. Thank you, Bear. I love that dog. He always loves to put on a show. He's too precious. All right, who else do we have questions from? I am an open book today, guys. Always, always. But yeah, I am just over the moon excited to be a part of this. Once again, it's one thing to think about a dream that you've had and to have to say, okay, I realize that right now this dream isn't for me any longer. I'm going to set this aside. It was really, really hard for me to withdraw from the pageant the first time around. I really, really had loved my time last year and my journey with the organization. And I had looked forward to this. I loved competing, and being in the top 12 last year was a huge honor. And I remember leaving Vegas saying, we're coming back hot for it next year. We're absolutely doing it again. And as soon as I was able to sign up, I was back in the competition, had my same title as the year before, and was ready to rock. And of course, I was away for 5 months for training for the military, and I'm like, this is perfect. We're gonna work our way up. This is where I'm gonna get a lot of my physical training in, and we're gonna compete. We're gonna show up in Vegas as soon as this is over, and we're gonna be ready to go. And having to make the decision to withdraw, and I really didn't have a choice given my career training, but it was difficult no less. So you can imagine, it was like Christmas in July, realizing that I'd be able to jump into the competition again and be able to carry this out as a virtual contestant. It's amazing what we're able to do virtually and remotely these days, really, really, truly. And I'm beyond over the moon about this experience. Oh, I'm seeing a ton of more messages come in now. Good morning from New York City. Oh, I love it. We have some New York here. What is your vision for the world after the coronavirus pandemic? Yeah, okay, that's a big one. I want us to live in a safe world where we listen to scientists, truly. There's a ton of humorous memes that have been going around, of course, with anything, but especially with the coronavirus. And one of them was, every horror movie starts with a group of people who refuse to listen to a scientist. And it's funny, but it's also very true. And I say this with two goals in mind. Not only do we need to listen to scientists and doctors and those who are medical experts and industry experts in infectious diseases and containing them, but we need to listen to our climate scientists. So I'm hoping that this is a huge wake-up call for folks to really understand the importance. It's not about always listening, our leaders, we have to listen to our leaders, but our political leaders, our policymakers, these are not necessarily people who have firsthand experience in science and medicine. Now, I say that with the caveat and also with the plug for leading ladies and getting involved in your community, but we need more people with these backgrounds. So sometimes you come across someone and you're like, wow, like, they really have an important perspective. Maybe they're in medicine. Maybe they're in some other field that you wouldn't necessarily see. They're not the typical lawyers and politicians. And that's perfect. And those are people we need to have encouraged to run for public office. So my vision is that, of course, we contain the coronavirus. We have a vaccine. And another big part of this is that we stop exploiting animals for our own personal use. A lot of the concerns with these global pandemics and outbreaks are that they've come from the consumption of animals. And again, I'm not saying everyone needs to be vegetarian or vegan, but like, we really need to have more regulations on these kinds of industries where there might be a disease outbreak that affects the human population. They're terribly degrading to the environment. And there's so many more environmentally friendly options out there. If you take cow's milk and swap it for almond milk or for cashew milk, even better. Or oat milk, where less water has been involved in that process. Or we are taking maybe tofu and swapping it in for chicken. There are a lot of other backups that we can have in our diets, and things that we can do on a day-to-day basis that are less degrading to the environment. You can tell us about your advocacy. I was talking a little bit earlier about leading ladies, but I've been greatly involved in helping to recruit and train young women to run for public office, to inspire women to see themselves as leaders in particularly male-dominated fields, and to give women the skills they need to succeed in these realms. And a huge hope for that is that we build more environmental leaders, especially with my generation, millennials, Generation Z. We are the ones that realize we are inheriting a world that has been greatly degraded by the decisions of our leaders before us, or the inactions, or the denial of climate change and climate science. And we've had enough of it. We've had enough of it. And it's up to us to make the difference. We're the ones that are going to change. And we're the ones that are inheriting our world. So I say, through my advocacy, enough of having people telling you you need to sit on the sidelines, you need to wait your turn, you need to pay your dues. We are ready to make a difference now. And I'd say we've seen this more than ever with climate strikes across our country, across our world, that young people have had enough. And we're not going to sit around and be told no any longer. So that's a huge part of what I hope to do through leading ladies. And of course, it's empowerment of everyone that we really need for climate change, the fight against climate change. But in terms of getting more women out there, we're absolutely climate savvy, caring, and ready to go. And that's the kind of leadership I hope to build and instill in my community. Of course, with my environmental advocacy, I'm big proponent of the plant-based living. I've been plant-based for 4 years. I was actually a competitive chicken wing eating champion. Don't even ask how I got into that. And in college, I was a competitive wing eating champion. And I always say, if I can do it, you can do it. If I can give up meat, you can give up meat. And I'm at a point now where I don't even think twice about it. It's just a part of my daily routine. It's a part of how I eat. It's a part of how other people around me know that I eat. I've been able to experience a ton of new recipes and foods. You think that with a restrictive diet, you're going to be experiencing less, but instead it helped me break out and really experience a lot more. So I would say look for vegan options. Find ways that you can incorporate more plant-based foods into your diet. Again, people get so scared when I say go meatless or take out dairy, but look for ways you can do this. Do maybe a tofu Tuesday, meatless Monday, seitan Saturday, tempeh Thursday. You can incorporate different daily routines into your lifestyle, even if it's just a few days of the week, and the environmental capacity that you are saving is wild. I actually, when I'm not working with the military, my other job is working on social media for Plant City Providence. We are the first plant-based food hall in the world. And this is a project that was done in conjunction with celebrity chef Matthew Kenny, who is a huge leader in the plant-based eating community. And this restaurant publishes their data on how much they've been able to save in water. Everything is sustainable, everything is compostable. Their whole model is sustainable food systems. And it's been greatly delicious, for sure, absolutely. I mean, their food is out of this world. They have 4 different restaurants and a coffee bar and a marketplace. The food is incredible. But drawing people in with the food also helps on the advocacy piece, where people are learning about the different ways that they can actually have an environmental impact, starting with what is on our plates. So I'm actually going to publish some of those numbers on my title holder Instagram later today. I just think they're so phenomenal. I'm also going to go over there for some work later. So I'll take some pictures of all of the delicious food, because people think veganism is so restrictive. But really, it totally opens the door to so much more. What's your take on the online virtual pageant? And this is uncharted territory. And I was talking about this a little bit earlier for some of you who were here. But I I'm excited. I'm so excited. There are pros and cons, and it's really a whole new ordeal here. But I think that the organization's made the right call. First of all, for the health of the contestants, but the health of our communities. The organization is making the right call in terms of how it's being executed, and it is so impressive. I have to say, the staff of Miss Earth USA, so impressive in pulling this all together, really in the 11th hour to make this happen for all of us contestants. Um, I'm happy that I can do it, because if it wasn't for the virtual pageant, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be competing. So the dream lives on, and I'm excited to see how this goes, and also excited to see what this means for the future of pageants post-pandemic. If we continue to have virtual pageants in some capacity, or if we totally go back to all in person. I think there's a lot to be said about how things will change hereafter, especially with school or meetings. I hope we're changing for the better and realizing we can do things in far more effective means. I missed another one up here. Are you confident to win Miss Earth USA? Here's the thing. I'm confident in who I am. I am 28 years old, and I have seen my career projection over the past couple of years. When I was 23 years old, I competed for Miss America, and at the time I thought, this is the end all be all. This is the growth for me. Like, I've made it. I'm here. And truth be told, there were so many things I still had hoped to accomplish, and so many milestones I had hoped to hit. I had aspired to graduate from Brown with my Master in Public Policy. I had aspired to join the Army and become an Army officer. I had aspired to make a significant impact through my platform work leading ladies. And I'm able to look back on young 23-year-old me, or 19-year-old me, or 14-year-old me when I started with pageants, and see how I've progressed over the years. I am more confident, not in my ability to win a pageant, but what matters is that I am confident in who I am and what I bring to the table. I am more confident in who I am, the woman I've become today, than I've ever been. And I think that's the most you can ask in any participation in pageants. I grew up with my mom always saying, we're gonna pray for a fair pageant, and we'd always say that before any pageant. We're gonna pray that it's fair, that we experience growth, that I'm able to change hearts and minds in the community, and that it's not about having the win, because the win is really what you take away from it, and the win is also what you give to other people. So in that sense, I'd say I'm very confident. I'm very confident in who I am, and I'm very thankful for the woman that I've become. What makes you different from other girls? I hate to play the comparison game, but I'm me. Like, I'm inherently me, and that's one of the things we're all, it's special about all of us. There is only one you. There is only one you. And having that same confidence that nobody can do exactly the things that you do, nobody can be the exact person you are. There is no carbon copy of who you are in this world. And that makes me confident, because I'm very proud of who I've become, who I've fought to be, who I have trained to be. And I'm very proud of the other women I'm competing against too. I mean, truly, truly extraordinary individuals, and I'm so honored to know them and to walk alongside them in this journey. In the midst of pandemic, when the whole world is down on its knee, why do you still think it's important to hold an international pageant like Miss Earth? So Miss Earth is tremendously about advocacy, and I think now more than ever we do need those advocates. We need other women who are able to uplift each other, but also uplift our advocacy and our work in our communities, and Miss Earth is about that. So I'm thrilled that we have an international pageant once again. It's another means for having women globally advocating for the environment. And of course, we see this every year. We have a great cohort of advocates in our world, across the world, for the environment. But by maintaining that pageant and continuing to push forward with that, and of course in a safe manner, virtually, this really makes it possible. But we continue to harness the energy of all of those women who are seeking to make a difference. And we all bring something different to the table. Not every contestant is going to sit here and tell you, hey, I'm plant-based for the environment, or, hey, this is what I do to make a difference. We all have something different. And that's so unique because we need to fit all of those pieces together to achieve the solutions that we need for our world. So I think the world of having Miss Earth continue on and have an international pageant. I heard you're vegan. How's life being vegan? Being vegan's been great. It's totally different now. So here's another thing too. People get freaked out. They're like, oh, can you go out to restaurants? Is there food for you? I even have family members who will say, oh, like what are we gonna do? How are we gonna feed the vegan? And I'm like, don't worry, friends, it's very easy. There's a lot of staples: rice, beans, fruits and vegetables. These are all vegan, but also there's been a huge push for more vegan options in restaurants across the board. So I know you can even go to Burger King or Dunkin' Donuts for any of these drive-thrus, and there will be something for you. Whether those options are necessarily the most healthy, nutritious, that's up for debate. We can get into that later, more in depth, but just because it's vegan doesn't mean it's healthy, I will say that. But there are so many more options, and so much of this has come from vegans being so vocal about the environmental impact. I remember trying veganism when I was fresh out of college. It was right before one of my attempts at Miss Rhode Island for the Miss America organization. And I said, I need to cut out steak and ice cream from my diet, so I'm just going to be vegan. And I lasted maybe a month. Veganism has to be a lifestyle change, and it has to be spurred by something so much bigger than wanting to look good in a bikini or wanting to be more fit. You can absolutely do it and become more fit, but you have to realize that there's so much more at stake. We have animals who have no defense for themselves. We have our world that we always have to look on behalf of. And when there's so much environmental devastation because of factory farming, I couldn't help but say, I'm making this change. I'm making this change for the better. And that's it. I'm done. And I put my foot down. Like I did it over a course of several months, but I really put my foot down when I walked out of Brown University, having completed my degree program, and went off into the real world with a real paycheck. Of course, as a student, sometimes you take what you can get, and there would be free food or other events for students, and I'm like, okay, this is where I might be able to enjoy anything that's made available to me. But when I'm making my own decisions, when I'm buying my own groceries, that's where I'm really focused on what I'm eating, what I'm buying for myself, and that it's sustainable. So you can start different ways to really ease yourself into that. Like I was saying before, like have a schedule: meatless Monday, tofu Tuesday, tempeh Thursday, seitan Saturday. And before you know it, you're making a difference because you're not harming animals, you're not taking food from unsustainable systems. We have been in many environmental challenges and still have a lot to face in the future. As an environmental advocate, how would you handle ruthless criticism against environmental advocates? You know what? It's as simple as wanting to be on the right side of history and listening to scientists. We know, we have the data. Climate denial is not public policy, and as somebody who is an advocate for effective public policy and data-driven public policy, the data is there. We're in trouble. We're absolutely in trouble. We can look around and see that for ourselves. So, you have to have that thick skin to deal with naysayers and to deal with people that don't believe, but I would rather fight hard for our world, really, than let people who don't believe in climate scientists negate any of the work that's been done by people who have the expertise. So it's up to us to continue to forge on, even when there's people, and there's global world leaders who don't believe in climate change. I believe, and I know so many here believe, and we have to be the ones that make that difference. Compared to our parents' generation, do you feel that this generation is more friendly or less friendly for the environment? I would absolutely say that we're more friendly for the environment. We're more aware. We are more socially aware. We are a very socially justice-driven organization, or generation rather. But beyond that, we're looking at other global problems. Climate change isn't our only global problem. We still have systemic racism that we're dealing with, and that's inherently linked to environmental racism. I said it last night, Flint, Michigan still doesn't have clean water. We still have areas that are essentially toxic waste dumps that people are living in, and it's disproportionately affected for people of color and low-income families. And we can't allow climate change and climate global pollution and other particular climate issues to affect people just because of who they are and their social class, where they come from, their race. It's completely inexcusable. And because we're waking up to this and because we're so actively vocal in this, fortunately, I think we have a much better time ahead because of the generation, both mine and the uprising generation, Generation Z. So I'm very impressed, and I think we're going to make an absolute huge difference in the long run. On social media, everything's made public. What do you think should remain private and why? You know, I like to be an open book. There are some things that are personal. Some people you will see title holders who have, the whole highlight reel. They have everything scrubbed, everything's perfect. I think we've also seen more title holders really be more open and vocal on social media. And I think that, what's private and what's public is up to you. But when you have a title, you have the ability to really create change. So, for example, I know there are some title holders that really struggle with mental health, or that have struggled with other terrible circumstances, maybe sexual assault and harassment, or who have been diagnosed with these terrible diseases, but they share their stories through their social media. So again, it's what you're comfortable with, but if you feel like you have the propensity to share, you have the audience and the ability to really tell your story in a way that might be painful, that might be difficult to do publicly, but you're able to help people, I would certainly share those things. Then again, there are some personal things here and there, like sometimes you're going through a rough time, maybe you're gone through a breakup, whatever it is. Share tactfully, share if you may, but I always think, you don't want to burn down bridges or hurt people in the process with what you're sharing on social media. High percentage of students every day are being bullied in schools. What's your message to bullies and parents? There's zero tolerance for bullying, zero, absolutely. And I think bullying can roll into other things too. Toxic work environments when you're older, it can turn to sexual harassment and assault. I think a lot of sexual harassment at the playground level is under the guise of bullying, and that's not okay either. So as we work as a community and as a society to eradicate bullying and sexual harassment, assault, violence from our communities as adults, it starts at the school level, it starts at the playground level. These things are completely unacceptable, and we have to have a zero tolerance policy on that. If you had the power to do anything you wish to improve the status of women in your country, what would you do? That's funny because I have my mug, if you didn't see it earlier, it's Ruth Bader Ginsburg saying when there are 9, so when there are 9 women on the Supreme Court, that's when there's enough, because no one's ever complained about 9 men. But for me, it's important that we have allies across the board, that we have, of course, women in these spaces, but that we also have built the respect for them, and that we're able to pinpoint implicit bias, any kind of sexism that has been very pervasive in our culture, and negate that. I really dislike gender stereotypes and kind of the binary that comes into play with this is for girls, this is for boys. We see that at a very early age, and I think we need to do more to move ourselves away from that. You know, as a kid, maybe I would have wanted to play with G.I. Joe or G.I. Jane instead of a Barbie. Even though Barbie does have an army Barbie. But I grew up not thinking that I would end up in the career field that I'm in, doing the things that I'm doing, because when I was a kid, first of all, my job wasn't open to women. It wasn't. And it's exciting that that's changed and that we have that representation there. But there's still so many girls who I'm fearful will grow up and think, you know, I can't be a scientist, I can't be president, I can't be whatever it is that girls have traditionally not aspired to be, or they've been persuaded against, and breaking down those ways that we socialize girls and boys from an early age is definitely something that I'm hoping we can move away from as a society so both men and women can flourish when they're older. A woman has just awakened after being asleep for 20 years. What do you tell her she's missed? Oh, oh boy. Well, I think, first of all, I'd be like, you know, this isn't as exciting as you would have hoped. I'm going to go back to sleep. We still don't have functioning hoverboards and hover cars and other things that maybe were predicted back in the day. But we're in a tough time. I would tell her we are in a tough time, and fewer things have changed than we initially anticipated. We still have systemic racism. We still have concerns, grave concerns, about the state of our economy, of our environment, and a lot of problems that have been around for years and years and years still exist. And we are in a heightened sense of frustration and fear. And I don't like to, you know, continue on with the fear that many people feel right now, but it's a fear that needs to be harnessed and used to make a difference and to have good come out of this. I'm really hoping that this is truly a reset moment where, as a society, we realign our values. And I would tell this woman waking up, hey, get ready, strap in, because you're going on a real ride. It's time. We're making changes, and we need you. Which has more significance to you in your life right now, a sunrise or a sunset? I definitely have some things sunrising in my life and some things sunsetting. So I'd say I'm in a chapter where there are books, chapters, a chapter in this book where there are some chapters closing and some beginning. I just started my career as an Army Field Artillery officer. A year ago, I stood on the Miss Earth stage and said I hope to become the first woman in my state to be a field artillery officer. And here I am doing that. So it's definitely a sunrise, and it's an exciting time knowing that there's this huge, huge journey ahead for me there. In some ways, there's also a sunset. This is my final pageant that I will be competing in, unless I'm to go on to the national level. This is it for me. So this is a wonderful journey in my life that I know is coming to an end, but I will always be involved in. And more importantly, I'll always be involved in the advocacy and the lessons that I've taken away from being part of this. At the end of each rainbow, so the saying goes, is a pot of gold. As a woman of the earth, instead of a pot of gold, what would you find at the end of the rainbow? What I'd rather find right now at the end of the rainbow? I would say a vaccine for the coronavirus. That would be a great start. And I think that would be very symbolic of where we're at. We all can use more rainbows in our lives, and we could certainly use that virus to be eradicated. On a quiet night, you could hear the sound of nature talking to you. What would you think its message is, and how would you like to tell it back? I personally think I hear nature talking to me every day, and Mother Nature is screaming for help. It's not a whisper, it's a scream. And I would use that to relay that message to my peers and to our community and society as a whole. We have to take action. We have to do things. We can't be idle when it comes to our world. No one else is going to take care of it for us. And I think of the tragedy of the commons, in which so many people use and abuse and don't think of the ramifications in the long run. So we really, really need to be more cognizant of ways that we can individually continue to be stewards of the environment and make a difference in all of our actions every single day. How would the world be different if women were judged solely on their achievements rather than their looks? Well, I would hope that we'd have more women in places of power. It would be wonderful for women to be judged solely on their achievements. I think one of the problems, though, is that men sometimes, this is not applicable to everyone, but there are men who are just terrified of powerful women, and the more they achieve, the more threatened they are by them, whether or not they're attractive or not. And we've seen this past week in the United States, where a male congressman used a terrible expletive about Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, who is the youngest woman in Congress. She is someone who certainly has gotten people worked up for the best. I mean, she's been a huge component of the Green New Deal. And this congressman used this expletive, and you know what? All of the achievement in the world would not have saved her from his inherent sexism, from having a male colleague get in her face. She's quite accomplished. So I hope not only do we not judge women just on their appearances, but when we look at women of accomplishment and we look at women with ambition and accomplishment are not used as dirty words, as so often they are. And that counterparts in the workforce, both men and women, are able to see these women of accomplishment as assets and not as threats. Is protest a positive way to create change? Absolutely. Absolutely. I have been greatly supportive of Black Lives Matter protest. I think it's important, it's insanely important to raise awareness of these issues and to call out problematic systems as they are. And so many people don't have these perspectives. Of course, I, as a Caucasian woman, don't have that perspective. I don't know what it's like to be pulled over and feared for my life. But I know for certain I don't want anyone else to have that issue and to deal with that kind of fear on a day-to-day basis. So absolutely, protest is a great way to raise awareness for issues that otherwise might be silenced. And it's our right in the United States to have these protests and to assemble and to fight for the rights. And the same thing goes to climate protests. I will continue to support climate protests because it's so imperative that our decision makers, our policy makers, our politicians know that we expect change. And you know what? If they don't change, we're coming. We can run ourselves. You meet your 75-year-old self, what would you tell her? I would say I fully expect that you have so many stories and that you have fully lived your life. You know, every single day we have the ability to write our own story, to write a new chapter in our book. Regardless of what the world throws at us, we are the head of our own story. And it's my sincere hope that one day I do write a book. I do aspire to be an author, and I would certainly hope that there's room in my future writing career for a memoir, and certainly one that I will be impressed with at the age of 75. You're on your way to a march and someone hands you a blank sign and a marker. What do you put on that sign? I would put on that sign, climate change denial is not public policy. So that is a message that needs to be heard. We can't sit around and do nothing when it comes to the environment. And unfortunately, that is a stance that many leaders have taken today. And I want no part of that. So climate denial is not climate policy. If someone makes a racist remark in your presence, how would you handle it? You have to call that out. Just like sexism, just like anything that I've talked to you about calling out on a regular basis, No tolerance for racism, no tolerance for bullying, no tolerance for sexism, no tolerance for anything that degrades people and undermines people for who they are. It's just zero tolerance across the board. If you felt a law was unjust, would you disobey it to make a political statement? I wouldn't necessarily disobey the law, but I would certainly write to my members of Congress or write to the leaders who are responsible for the law. Again, this is a place where you can peacefully protest, you can advocate, and if you think something's truly unjust, you can run for office yourself. And I certainly hope that more people see that. I think we are seeing that too, where there's been a lot of discussions about things that are unjust or issues that we just as a whole can't see continue on anymore. And because of that, we are seeing more people of color running for public office. We are seeing more LGBTQ plus people running for office. We are seeing more women running for office because laws have disproportionately been unjust for these groups of people. And that's how we best create change. If a 15-year-old girl wants to stop her studies, what would your advice be to give her? I get that college may not be the traditional route for everyone, but education is so important. So whatever you're doing, I mean, I am a lifelong learner. I have essentially been in higher education for 10 years. It's so critical that women, especially, continue their educations, that we all continue our education, whether it is formally or informally in the classroom. And maybe she needs to reassess what she wants to do and where you want to be. But at 15 years old, of course, when I was 15 years old, I was in high school. You have to get your high school education. And then beyond then, we can talk about different routes because, like I said, college isn't the right fit for everyone. Sometimes trade school, sometimes entrepreneurship. There are so many different routes, but you always have to look for a way to have some facet of education and be a lifelong learner. What do you think is the most undervalued profession right now and why? There are a lot of different ways this can go. But I've hit on this before, and I'll hit on it again. There are still people who undervalue incredibly talented and smart climate scientists and scientists in general. I mean, we look at the United States and the state of where we are in right now, and there has been undermining of the CDC or the World Health Organization. We can't afford to not listen to scientists and medical professionals. In the same breath, these are people who have been wildly regarded as heroes, and they absolutely are and must continue to be so. But we need to really push back on any pushback against listening to our scientists and our medical professionals, particularly in the midst of global pandemic. Which do you think is a better strategy to encourage people to be environmentally conscious, to give incentives for good environmental practice, or to penalize bad habits? It could be very well a mixture of both. I think I would say more in particularly penalizing bad habits is certainly what we're going to see, and it's not penalization of bad habits based on laws or the rules that are set forth, but I think people are inherently going to be adversely affected by climate change when they realize that glaciers are melting, our world is hurting, there are resources that are going to be hard to come by because they have been depleted, and we need to move ourselves away from getting to that point. But it's realizing and having the self-realization that wow, there are things that are inherently hurting us, and that in itself is an adverse action against how we've treated our environment and our world, and we need to do what we can to turn that around. you were to make a postcard to represent your country, what picture do you use? Ooh, represent my country. We're gonna go the route right now of little public shaming, but I would use a postcard of a huge beach filled with people that are not practicing social distancing or masking up. Right now, that's pretty indicative of America, where we had this very costly and expensive shutdown, and things in many parts of our country have gone back to normal. I'm very proud of Rhode Island and the fact that our governor, Gina Raimondo, has been adamant about shutting things down. She has been kind of dubbed the queen of knock it off. It was a saying she had, a slogan she's had, and it's been statewide, hey, knock it off. And we've been very restrictive with our social distancing measures and masking and everything in Rhode Island. But it's still so problematic in so many parts of the country. Florida, California, Texas, like there are huge tourism hubs and destinations where none of these things are being practiced. And right now, I mean, we've continued to see an incline of the coronavirus in the United States. So, postcard of my country right now. See a very crowded beach. We have a lot of wonderful tourism to offer here, but don't come here. And right now, there is still problems with people following suit, and our leaders taking ample precautions to shut down the coronavirus and ensure that we can really flatten the curve because it's growing. And unfortunately, I think we're going to see another wave here before long because it hasn't been taken seriously in the way that it needs to be. So not the best image of America right now. But you know what? Sometimes that's it. You have to, you just have to use a little bit of that social shaming. Wow, you all have come with so many comments here. I'm getting so many questions. Woo! I'm going to try to get, oh wow, I wish I got all of these. I'm going to save some of these. I'm absolutely going to save any of these that have not been answered, and I'm going to answer them on my next Facebook Live on my Pageant page. So I talked about this earlier on the show. Tomorrow night, Monday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is New York time, 9 p.m. I'm going to be going on Facebook Live, and I'll take care of the rest of these questions then. Let's see. What is the biggest advice that you didn't take and why? There have been, I'd say a lot of times in my pageant career, I've had people give me advice. And yes, there's some constructive criticism and feedback, and I love constructive criticism and feedback. But anytime I've gotten advice to do something that's just inherently not myself, I've said thanks, but no thanks. And I think it's part of being in pageants and growing, where you know who you are, you know what you bring to the table, and you're not going to inherently change who you are because someone has a problem with that. So that's some advice I'd also say no to. Also, I was given the advice multiple times not to join the military, not to join the army. A lot of that was because people didn't think that it was something that I could do or some place that I belonged. And I shut that out, and I forged on, and I've had the career that I've had because I didn't listen to naysayers and to listen to people who didn't have my best interest in mind. And sometimes that even came from family and close friends and some of the people closest to me, but I forged on. And to that I say, if there's something in your heart that you really want to do, there's something that speaks to you and other people don't see it, they don't want to see it, you have to continue on fighting for yourself. And you need to step up to the plate and do it anyway. And in that same vein, I always think of my favorite quote from Eleanor Roosevelt, do one thing a day that scares you. And sometimes it can be scary to chase after those dreams, especially when people undermine you or don't believe you're capable. But you have to do it. You owe that to yourself. And with that, we're coming to our end here. Like I said, I'm going to look through all of these comments. Thank you all for joining. Thank you for coming with such great and engaging and diverse questions. I will certainly be addressing more of these in my own Facebook Live. But for that, thank you for being here. And in the meantime, you can follow me on Ali Curtis RI on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, or Miss Rhode Island Earth. It's such an honor to have you all here, and I'm hoping you all will tune in to our virtual pageant on August 8th as well through Pageant Planet. All right. Have a wonderful night, morning, day, wherever you are. Have a good one. Thanks again for being here. Bye.